listen, Jordan is here, and he is going to be so upset when I lay out this next one. Jordan, I am so sorry. Thank you for everything that you do for this program, and you keep the chat going. But Tennessee's going under 8. Okay, excuse me. They ain't going 9-3. That is my strongest opinion on Tennessee, and that is why I'm locking up the under 8. Is because they ain't going 9-3. I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm sorry, Pete Helms. All the Vols fans in the chat, they ain't going 9-3. Look, Georgia, Alabama, at LSU. Like, those are games, and I believe that look-ahead lines might have Tennessee favored in Baton Rouge, and we kind of already said in the SEC West or SEC East win total, like that ain't right. So I've already got 3 right there that I'm chalking up as L's, and then at Pitt, Florida, and Kentucky, those are not easy wins. Tennessee ain't going 9-3. They have so much offensive firepower. Love Hendon Hooker. Love Cedric Tillman. Think they will continue to score a lot of points. Think Josh Heupel is doing a good job of being able to lead this program into the next era. They've got so much passion. You know, they're doing all the things you need to do to bring in talent to Tennessee, and I do think that is it's something that is good moving forward. But Georgia, Alabama, at LSU, at Pitt, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee ain't going 9-3, so I'm locking up the under 8.
Tennessee ain't going 9-3. It sounds like the phrase that I repeated most amount of times is 100% correct.
They could still go 9-3. They could.
They ain't. They ain't. And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Tom Finelli. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and all across the 24/7 Sports Facebook network. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, come and join us in the chat. It is our Week 11 instant reaction show. We have Utah carrying a 14-7 lead right now against Stanford late in the second quarter. Very interesting. Even more interesting, Arizona with a 14-7 lead on the UCLA Bruins. What does that mean, especially in the wake of Washington's upset win against Oregon in Autzen Stadium? A lot to get down into, a lot to break down from the top 25 perspective to the conference title race perspective. We will be going over the biggest games. We will be going conference by conference. And, of course, we will have our projections of what the new AP top 25 looks like on Sunday. Tennessee and Missouri, you will have your chance. Jordan, salute to you. I'm glad that I was able to be freezing cold taked at the moment that went bust. But
your own show.
I know. It's okay.
Cold.
I'm too excited about other things that we have to get to, because we have to get to the Hypnotoad keeping the magic run going. We have to get to, obviously, the fallout from the Pac-12. We have to get to this LSU team clinching the SEC West via an ugly win against an Arkansas team without KJ Jefferson, and Alabama going into Oxford and getting a hard-fought win against the Rebels. Also, man, the Vanderbilt Commodores getting their first SEC win of the Clark Lee era.
Had Clark crying in the club.
I am so excited that we are going to get a chance to break that down as well. So much to get to. I thought that we could begin with TCU and Texas. And there's a couple angles to this. Obviously, the beginning, before we get to the Texas side of this, is TCU, because this was not the script. There wasn't a backup quarterback. All the backup quarterback frauds, like, oh, TCU, the only reason they're good in the second half is because they all beat up on backup quarterbacks. Well, guess what? Their defense showed up from the start of the game and brought the heat to Quinn Ewers. And Quinn Ewers, man, came up with like a couple of good throws. But for the most part, the game as a whole, I don't have the box score in front of me, but I grade it as a kind of performance for Ewers, especially given his ceiling. I think a lot of that has to do with TCU. Maybe some of it has to do with Steve Sarkisian. Where do you want to go first on TCU's win in Austin as an underdog of more than a touchdown against the Longhorns?
Chip, you said it was an performance. I think it was more like crash into the damn mountain, dude. I mean, it was 17 of 39 for a $171, no touchdowns and a pick. I mean, they couldn't throw the ball. TCU sold out to stop Bijan and said, hey, throw it if you can. And like TCU's defense here with coordinator Joe Gillespie, I think they deserve all the credit in the world. I mean, this Texas just put up, 35, 38, something like that last weekend in Manhattan. They ran all over Kansas State, which is a pretty good offense. Like Kansas State today destroyed Baylor. Texas, is coming off that. And TCU goes in there. Did Texas score an offensive touchdown tonight? No. Yeah.
Yeah, they had the scoop and score. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, they had 199 yards in their own building. Shout out TCU's defense here. Like, that was a hell of a – we did talk about this, by the way, in the offseason. I remember how talking to these coaches in the American, they were like, I hate playing Tulsa. I hate playing Tulsa. And the hire of Joe Gillespie, who is where Sonny Dykes got the DC from Tulsa, I thought he called a really good game tonight. He pants Sark, dude.
Yeah, that outfit Sark was wearing pregame, that's when I knew Texas was doomed. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was an interesting choice, an interesting decision with the fashion there. But I think it's great for TCU in that they had this kind of game, which was completely different than anything we've seen from them all year, in which their offense struggled quite a bit itself for the most part. I mean, they averaged only 3.9 yards per play, and they finished with 283 yards of offense, and 75 of them came on the one run by Miller in the fourth quarter to put the game away. But they still won. So it's kind of funny that the one night, we talked about this team all year. They've been unable to blow teams out because defensively they weren't stopping anybody. And the one night the defense is working, the offense isn't doing enough to kind of help them pull away. But to get this win, I think is huge. Quinn Ewers was terrible tonight. I mean, his receivers dropped about 5 passes, but even if you take that away, that's still only 17 for 34 for 171 yards. And I know I said about a month ago he was the best quarterback in the country, but I was joking, and you fell for it. So,
well, yeah, no,
don't you feel dumb?
Tennessee under was just a big joke too, right? Yeah.
Thank God Jordan didn't have that clip ready. Thank you, Jordan.
Well, you didn't hit quite to the soul there on the Quinn Ewers piece of this. Are the Longhorns still going to hold a spot because they've got 4 losses now? Like, they are fighting an uphill battle. TCU has clinched one of the spots in the Big 12 championship game. Like, we've already solved that math. Now it's going to be a Kansas State team, which came away with, I mean, we can save the conference by conference for later. Kansas State had a very impressive win at Baylor. Will Howard's your best quarterback.
Yes,
yeah. Martinez getting hurt is a good thing. But again, we can save that for later. Is Texas done? Like, is the relevancy of this Longhorns team done? And what does a Texas fan who's been riding a roller coaster all season think about the 2022 season as it stands right now?
I mean, they're not mathematically done, but if you just look at how things break down, they've got to play Kansas and Baylor. And so they've got the tiebreaker over Kansas State. So if Kansas State loses one of its final games, and technically they can still get in, they just need a lot of help. And frankly, I don't think they're going to get there just because it's a flawed team.
Yeah, I mean, look, they could get there, but I doubt it. I think Kansas State is probably going to be in the driver's seat now. So I agree with Tom, though. Like, we've not seen a game and with Chip like this from TCU.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice. The only thing I can really remember is we did kind of see a game like this early on. It kind of felt like the one at Colorado where their offense didn't do a damn thing for quite a long time.
The half, yeah.
Colorado frustrated them, and then they hit a couple explosive runs like they did in this one, and the defense kept playing really well for the whole night. But that's been a couple months since then. So I was excited to see this defense play this well. Like, TCU is a good team, man.
Speaking of defenses playing well, I hope you just saw the tackle attempt by Arizona's defensive backs on that UCLA touchdown.
I don't. I'm too busy. I'm too busy efforting right now. I'm efforting. The chat's asking for it. If you're listening right now, you understand what the stakes in the situation are. We are efforting to try to make it happen. Will it happen? I don't know. I'm very happy for the situation at hand that has led to all this effort but we're trying to get it together. Okay. TCU side of this before we move on. At Baylor, Iowa State at home. They've clinched a spot in the Big 12 title game, but clearly the college football playoff, especially after this performance, and legitimately trying to compete for a national championship, are the conversation around this team. What is the confidence that TCU can make it to, let's just say, can make it to Dallas with a 0 in the loss column?
That Iowa State game's like terrifying right now because that team just drags everybody into the muck with it every single week. And seeing the way that they kind of struggled today to move the ball offensively and how Iowa State has done that to other teams, it's like, I think they're going to get by Baylor because as I talked earlier, I'm not big on Baylor. I thought that was evident tonight in the Kansas State game, but I just feel like that Kansas State game or the Iowa State game is such a trap kind of tricky situation, but I think they're going to get there. I do. I think they will be undefeated when they get to Dallas, and they will be at that point a win away from a playoff berth.
I think they have a pretty good shot to get there. Yeah, I mean, if I had to put odds on it, they're probably not greater than 50% to go 12-0. But if I had to pick like one specific record, and like give you the games, I'm picking them to win both those ball games. Like Baylor's going to have to prove it to me. Kansas State ran all over them tonight. So, yeah, I agree with Tom here. I think he's spot on. Will they be favored in a rematch with Kansas State?
I would think so. Not by a ton, but I would say probably about 3 to 4 points.
I haven't looked at a power ratings in a couple weeks.
You're just going off vibes these days?
Yes. Can you not tell? Yeah. Slightly above or so. What's my locks for this week? Is it 4-3?
I think you're 4-4.
4-4. Yeah. So all vibes, baby. That's it.
Just paying the VIG.
No, I have not. I'm surprised that it would be 3 or 4. I would think that TCU would get a full touchdown, but I would look it up before having to speak on it. That's just probably some bias from what we saw at this point in the season. Okay. Oregon and Washington was not the game that we expected. And I say that not because of, the locks or our discussion about the way that these two teams are going to be able to go back and forth. The fact that Washington's defense, bad against the pass, bad against the run, everything that Oregon's offense could do. The game did kind of break out and got a little bit loose, but also there are some coaching decisions that we could question. Bo Nix maybe turned into a little bit of a pumpkin, had a little bit of a midnight moment himself. It wasn't on the road. It was at home. And while the Ducks still remain very much in the thick of this Pac-12 title race, I do think that our analysis of Oregon has to be reframed after seeing the home loss to Washington, right?
I think that it's just a bit of degree, right? We talked on the Wednesday show when we did this preview that Oregon's weakness was its secondary. And how many really good passing attacks had they seen so far this year? And we thought if Washington had a chance, it would be because they could just roast the secondary. We go back to talking to Matt Prem over summer on the Cover 3 YouTube channel. He's like, yeah, there's a chance the secondary is really bad. The rest of the team, probably pretty good. And, I mean, it showed it tonight. Penix was 35 throws for 408 yards. They just couldn't get any stops. He had guys wide open almost the entire night. What was the coaching decision we were questioning on it?
So we had going forward on 4th and 2 in your own territory, not in plus.
Oh, at the end of the game?
At the end of the first half.
Okay.
You had the onside kick attempt. There were like a couple of calls in a row where it got a little bit dicey, and I think the game got squirrely late second quarter, early third for the Ducks.
I didn't mind the onside kick because I thought, it's the same thing that they did against UCLA.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
They were trying to steal a possession in a game in which Dan Lanning's pretty sure his defense isn't going to get many stops unless Penix makes a mistake. And there was the mistake Penix made right through the interception in the red zone.
Yeah, I don't have any problem and I don't have any problem in the fourth quarter, like it's on Bo Nix. I don't have any problem going for it when Bo Nix drops the snap early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And going for it with the backup, there is absolutely the right move because you have certainty as to what you need to do. Like if you punt it away, the chance that you actually get a stop there is really low.
See, I very much disagree with that. You should have punted.
You would punt it away with a minute 40 and 2 timeouts?
Yeah, of course I would. With my backup quarterback in? Yes.
As opposed to that really good offensive line so you can get a yard?
The really good offensive line got shoved into the backfield in that play, and then the guy slipped because the hole wasn't there because they just sold out because they knew you had your backup QB in, and they were not worried about him in the slightest.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of hindsight? I mean, you ran for 312 tonight. Like
I would have punted before that happened.
I think your odds of winning the ball game are much better if you go for it than if you punt the ball away.
I disagree because you're already putting Washington in field goal range, and their kicker's very good. So if you don't get it, the game's over.
Washington's drives in the second half were 65-75, 98-65, and then the 8-yard field goal drive at the end.
Mm-hmm. But if you're Washington and you're just trying to drive to get into field goal position at that point, maybe you do a little better job because they're not tearing you over the top. I don't think you did yourself any favors with making that decision. Like, I understand the reasoning. If Bo Nix is in there, I'm going for it, and I'm lining him up under center, and I'm doing a QB sneak with my 170-pound quarterback who's not played all year, didn't play any last year. I'm not going in shotgun on 4th and 1 because I know he's not going to take the ball, and I can't line him up under center because he's never taken any snaps under center probably in his life. And they just completely sold out, and it was an easy stop. It was so predictable what they were going to do. You knew the play before the snap. It's just, I thought it was. I would have punted.
Did y'all hear Chris Peterson on the halftime show talking about Washington and Oregon?
No.
Oh, it was awesome. They set him up so all he had to do was talk about everything Washington was doing great. They just trashed everything that Oregon was doing wrong. They're like, Coach, what do you think? He was like, well, I like the way Washington is doing things right now. He's got the big smile. Like Chris Peterson's got like a good smile. Yeah. Like the way Washington's doing things right now. They're running and they're passing. They're normally a pass first team, but now it was an extremely not biased, but just a fun position to put him in on the desk, having him comment on Washington in this spot.
What was kind of funny to me was at halftime of that game was on Fox. The FS1 game was Kansas State and Baylor, which was at halftime at the same time. And it was the same halftime crew doing different halftimes at the same time. So the Kansas State Baylor one had been recorded, obviously, and they were just showing highlights. And it was just because I was freaking out because I'm looking at my TVs and I've got Emmanuel Acho on 2 screens at once, but he's doing 2 completely different things.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like when we need to tape the D block 15 minutes before the show. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just rip through the top 25 highlights and then just go ahead and get that in the can. So we'll be ready to go. Make it easier on everybody.
Going back to coaching decisions, I also did not like Washington going in the jumbo package on that 4th down. Because, why would you do that when that's completely not who you are? And it allowed Oregon, who hadn't been able to stop you all night, to just load the box and get penetration and stop you and hold you to the field goal there. So I didn't like that.
What was the final sequence? Because I'm not claiming to have had my head buried in a couple different assignments at once. What led to the final sequence? Before Washington got the final field goal, what was the
Bo Nix got knocked out in the previous possession. He took a big hit on the shoulder, but then a couple seconds later, apparently it was his ankle that hurt him. I don't know. He was trying to walk off the shoulder, and then all of a sudden he just went to the ground, took a funny step, and couldn't walk off the field, and then he was missing that possession. And they were just, it's like you're in that game, in that situation, in the biggest game of the year for you at that point. You've got your backup QB in, so they went very conservative, and then they found themselves in 4th and 1 deep in their own territory, and they decided to go for it.
So Bo Nix Heisman's done.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Michael Penix might jump into the picture though.
No way. No.
You know what? We've been trashing the coaching. I will say the one thing I really like about what Washington and Kalen DeBoer does, because my one critique of Michael Penix has always been he's got the rocket arm. but he has like, if he was a pitcher, he has no breaking stuff. Like he's got a fastball and he's got a changeup if it's like a short little dump off to the running back. So I think DeBoer does an amazing job of completely building the offense around Michael Penix's fastball. Like there are no touch throws. It is all lasers, and it works. He's doing a terrific job at it. It's like he can make every throw. It's just sometimes he makes a wild decision. But other than that, the kid's just got an absolutely rocket arm.
They did such a good job as far as scheming guys open too. Like there was never a point really where it looked like Oregon's defense was comfortable, and if your guy can't make touch throws, give him something where like you're taking advantage of the full field because he does have a rocket, right? And he can get there. He can fit the ball in places where it normally doesn't go.
Yeah,
I thought that was evident.
The throw he made on the sideline on the 62-yard touchdown to Davis, where he just beat like the safety. Oh. The safety saw it. The safety, Bennett Williams, was going over there to make the play, and he just beat him with the throw. Like he had no prayer of getting there in time. It was incredible.
So before we get to modern gun season in Fayetteville, let's get to the second leg of the SEC West getting settled here on Saturday in Week 11. Do you feel any better about this Alabama Crimson Tide team based on the response from the Crimson Tide, falling behind early against Ole Miss and battling back and being able to get the stops they needed, being able to get a win in Oxford and come out of a close competitive game with the victory against the Rebs?
Not at all. I feel worse about Alabama after today. I mean, like Ole Miss loses one of their top receivers early in the ball game. Alabama gets outgained by 100 yards. Saban's having meltdowns on the sideline and having to get in there and talk to his guys a whole bunch. They don't look organized. I mean, this collection of talent should have been a team that you had ready to go and play, for the Natty, and they don't look well coached. Tom, I know you have a point on this. I need to look something up. So I'm going to do that live on air.
I mean, listen, we got to go to it.
Oh, we got it?
We got to do it.
Let's do it.
Oh, man. And he
look at this guy.
Good, too. Let's go.
You put on a tux?
What's up, boys? Man.
What's up? Barton Simmons, the general manager of Vanderbilt football, fresh off taking down Kentucky in Lexington, notching that SEC victory, joining the Cover 3 podcast Week 11 instant reaction show. Barton, my friend, congratulations. You look fantastic. That is a tuxedo, right?
I am tuxed out right now. Yeah. This is just what we do. This is Vanderbilt life. It's just like a Saturday night at Vanderbilt. It's good to see you boys.
Yeah, good to see you too. So where were you? Were you press box or were you sideline?
I was sideline.
Sideline.
Always sideline. Yeah.
What was the vibe?
It was cold, rainy, damp, but man, it was a nice day in Lexington. I'm actually, so here's a story. So I left the game in the fourth quarter. I am currently, that's why I'm in my tuxedo here. I'm in my tuxedo because 1 year ago today, my mother passed away. Oh. She's being honored tonight at the National Public Library Foundation Gala, her and my dad. And so I was coming back here to try to get to this. She went to Kentucky, by the way. So I'm in the car driving back. There's like 5 minutes left in the game. I'm listening to her on the radio, and that's
emotional.
It was a crazy, crazy into the game. I call my dad after the game to let him know, I'm going to make it. I'll be okay. We're on the way. And he and I literally we're on the phone together, crying together about what? She's probably up there somewhere. She went to Kentucky and this a year ago today. And there's something mystical about this, and it was kind of a cool moment. This is a day that the old Barton will remember.
Dude. And like an icon of education, right?
she made it count.
Yeah, she made it count 100%. And for all that stuff to line up together, man, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Have you got a chance to talk to Clark since the game ended?
Yeah, just we've been on a couple of shared text chains. There's the Vandy lines are popping right now. There's some enthusiasm out there, which is exciting. So it was a good ride home. It was hard to stay off the phone there for the ride home to Lexington from Lexington, but made it home safe.
So,
dude, this wasn't fluky.
No.
I mean, Vanderbilt outgained Kentucky by 140 yards, and like if you told me Vanderbilt was going to get its first SEC win of the Barton Simmons era by outgaining Kentucky by about $150 and losing the turnover battle and do it on the road, that was kind of like this could have been bigger.
See, here's the thing, guys, is if you really go back and look in Missouri and you go back and look at South Carolina, and look, we lost those games, and I'm not going to, this isn't like some sort of like revisionist, but we lost those games. But the reality is, like, we had a chance to beat Missouri. Like, we were driving to win and had a fourth down stop. And South Carolina, we really moved the ball really effectively against those guys. And there was a couple of turnovers and just, some tackling issues on the perimeter. And so I think, like, for us, part of the thing that was so exciting and gratifying about this win is like we felt like we were so close. We've been so close, and we've like, if you're in the building every day, like, you see this team getting better, like you see the belief, taking hold every day, and so like we've known how close we are, and just to finally get a win to where like the outside world can kind of see how close we are, is gratifying and validating, and so we got to build on this. I'm still the 24-hour rule is not over yet. I'm still celebrating. There's some oat milk at home with my name on it. But it is certainly, we're going to enjoy it right now. And it is nice to kind of have, the people that aren't in the building every day, get to see a little bit about what's bubbling up.
You have a better record than Jimbo. It might be time to go, seeking a raise there. It's comparing salaries.
Did they lose today?
Yes, They did.
Hey, man,
that is 3-7 Texas A&M Aggies and the 4-6 Vanderbilt Commodores heading into the penultimate week of the regular season of 2022.
Listen, all I know is if you took the under on the doors, sorry for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry for you.
Hey, listen, you promised the over by October. That was already cashed. You also promised that you would show up on the Cover 3 podcast after the first SEC win, and you've delivered on that one in like truly remarkable, otherworldly, mystical circumstances. And so it's awesome to be able to share at least a piece of this day with you, for sure.
Yeah, I had every intention of pulling up to this thing with an oat milk in hand, but I saw the way this night and this event was running a little long, and I knew I had to get at least show face here. So as always, boys, I appreciate all the support. We got more wins coming for Vanderbilt, and so hopefully it won't be too long where I'm not going to pop on for every win because there's too many of them.
Yeah, let's go. Hey, take down Vanderbilt, take down Tennessee, and the bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
One game at a time. We're 1-0 this week. Hey, we got the Gators coming to town, and we'll see what happens there. It's going to be fun. But yeah, we're excited. And who's winning locks right now?
Bud.
Oh, Bud.
Yeah, but
How's the race? Is it close or is Bud running away with it?
I don't know. Tom, do you have it up?
He's about 50 units ahead of Danny at this point after what Danny
Danny's
did today.
Danny's falling behind.
Yeah,
you're up 5.5 on Chip.
Okay.
Well, that's that. Then the world is in its proper place. If Danny's pulling up the rear, and Big Bet Bud is up front, then I think all's good in the world.
I just admitted to these guys and our entire audience that I haven't looked at power ratings in 3 weeks. I'm just going on vibes at this point in the season.
Listen, man, that's what makes this podcast special, Chip. And I maintain that. As long as you give me like the wouldn't it be funny rule, like that's what I want to hear, man. So keep it rocking, boys. It's great to see you guys. I need to get back on again. It's been too long. So
we'll set it up. Love you, dude.
Thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.
all right.
See ya.
That
was absolutely fantastic. That's all I wanted. All right, you know what? Like, forget LSU Arkansas. We'll tackle that on the other side. Coming up on the other side, we will go and break down our predictions for the projected top 25 and go conference by conference with more of our notes from week 11. Next.
I kept my mouth shut for 25 years.
Now that you're back, I want you to go to Tulsa.
Not exactly the welcome I was expecting. What crew runs this neighborhood?
No crew up in here. We're in the middle of nowhere.
I'll protect you from the gangs.
What gangs?
Sit down!
You got a pretty good appetite for someone who was just shot at.
Tulsa King. New series streaming November 13th, exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Well, we know that there will be some shakeups within the top 25, as again, Oregon took a loss to Washington. Also, we saw Ole Miss lose to Alabama, but only 4 unranked games are going to produce a couple losers. Honestly, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing that number 17, NC State's probably going to fall out. Number 19, Liberty's going to fall out. Number 21, Illinois. I'm so sorry, Tom. I do think that the Fighting Illini are probably destined to fall out after losing to Purdue. The big questions for me are, number 1, do you think that Texas, 4 losses, is going to remain in? And then I think the other piece of this is, all right, well then, who are you putting in there? Because you can make an argument for, for example, right now, Bud, you'll be so happy to hear, I've got Troy at number 25 in my projections. I think that Troy, with 7 wins in a row, 8-2 after a win against Army, is going to be one of those teams that people just gravitate towards. They are going to be helped by the fact that Baylor, a team that was on a lot of top 25 ballots, lost. That Wake Forest, a team that was on a lot of top 25 ballots, lost. There are other situations as well right near the fringes where it's just going to be a little bit of a grab bag in terms of trying to figure out who is going to be right there on the edge of the rankings. Kentucky, another team that was not in the top 25 of the AP poll. It was in the top 25 of the selection committee ranking, but as we just discussed with Barton Simmons, also lost. So who's going to be in the fringes of the rankings?
You really forgot one here, Chip. The question is, are we really going to drop Kentucky out after another quality SEC loss?
Well, yes.
Sorry, I've been waiting all day to use that one.
I think Cincinnati's getting back in.
Yep.
They got a pretty big win on Friday night. Coastal could sneak back in. This could be like a big week for the G5. It'll be interesting to see what they do because if Texas is still ranked at 6-4.
So you know what's funny about this is I was running the Chipalytics and the win against UTSA and the win against Kansas State might be things that keep Texas hanging around. Oklahoma State lost.
I thought Oklahoma State won.
Oh, Oklahoma State won. Oklahoma State might get in.
Yeah,
7-3 Oklahoma State might get in.
No, they'll be back in for sure. They were in last week. They got dropped out. Those people will put them right back on the ballot.
I've got Florida State moving up. I've got Tulane falling only just a couple spots. UCF makes a pretty noticeable jump up. Washington's going to be one of the biggest movers, as you might expect. They were a 2-loss team with no quality wins. Hello, quality win here in the form of Oregon. They come and join that sort of Penn State, Utah, Ole Miss land. Whether North Carolina will get moved up after its win against Wake Forest is a little bit of a question. Are they going to get moved ahead of Clemson? I doubt that from the AP voters, but it could happen.
I would say unlikely because
Clemson looked decent today.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson had a multi-score, pretty comfortable win over a
They've
Louisville
got like
team.
a ceiling. We're still operating in the closed space where Clemson looked good, but there's only but so high that Clemson could potentially go, even with the shakeup ahead of them. Like North Carolina is running against that same ceiling where no one's going to put a Clemson or a North Carolina ahead of that run of like a USC, a UCLA, or heck, even Oregon potentially after Oregon just took its second loss.
How high does Alabama jump back up?
I've got them sitting at the same spot in the AP poll at number 10.
Skeptical they're going to stay there.
I mean, they only had 300 yards today.
That doesn't matter. They're Alabama and they beat a number 11 team.
All right, trivia wise, can you name me the teams that did not have at least like 325 yards against Ole Miss's defense this year?
Georgia Tech.
That's one.
There was a second.
There's a second. It's an FCS team. Central Arkansas.
Okay. Yeah.
Troy had more yards than Alabama did. Tulsa, Kentucky, Vandy. Of course, Vandy did. Auburn, LSU. Hell, A&M did. Before we had Barton on, Chip had asked me like, "Hey, are you any more impressed with Alabama?" No. Like, to me, that was more like Ole Miss was every bit as flawed as we thought they might be.
Within the context of the competition, I thought that Alabama's defense had a very strong finish to the game.
Yes.
That if we look at the final 4 Ole Miss possessions, the fact that they ended in 2 turnovers on downs and 2 field goal attempts means that Alabama's defense showed up. And not that Alabama's defense statistically has ever been poor or a liability, but I thought that playing on the road, given the way that game had started, 17-14 at halftime, kind of felt like Ole Miss was getting everything it wanted. I mean, Quinshon Judkins was cooking. I kind of thought that letting the defense go and win it was a kind of old school Saban-esque way to win, especially on the road. I thought the defense played well, and that's probably what is my strongest positive for Alabama coming out of this. I'm not coming out of the win just being like, oh, I feel so much worse about them. My concerns are still my concerns, but if there's any positives, I do think it comes on the defensive side of the ball.
Also, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs did get hurt in this game.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were maybe riding some hot hand.
Yeah,
Really?
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I mean, so Jenny Dell, I think, had sideline, and the Alabama staff told her that he was not injured. He's eligible to come back into the game. And Jace McClellan ran his butt off. Like, that guy was running hard. He ran well. But the interesting thing is when McClellan got dinged real quick, they did not put Gibbs back in the game. They
They went to Williams.
Yeah.
That's why I thought Gibbs was hurt.
No, I mean, Bud's right.
Wow.
Yeah, the report said that he was available to come back, and it was just, I don't know.
I feel like, I'd love to know what happened there.
I did not think that while Bryce Young had 3 touchdowns, he was the best player or most important, or excuse me, he is always the best player. Not always, but I did not think he was individually the most important player. I thought that there were a lot more contributors to Alabama's victory beyond Bryce Young. What are you laughing about?
Nothing. Something Bud posted in the private chat. I thought, I mean, what did we talk about on the pregame show we had? Oh, by the way, shout out Matt Corral. Thank you for joining us earlier today. If you guys missed
from
it,
Lane Kiffin's office.
From Lane Kiffin's office. We talked about it on the show. Like, Ole Miss's defense, if they were going to beat Alabama, they had to heat up Young and they had to keep him in the pocket. When they heated him up and kept him in the pocket, they got him down. When they let him escape the pocket, he was making stuff happen. And it is so inconsistent, this Alabama offense, every single week. It is the same dang thing every single time. If Bryce Young's not doing something spectacular, they're really not doing anything.
3.5 million viewers, by the way, on that pregame show at this point. You can still go watch it. It's on the Cover 3 Twitter page. It's on the Cover 3 YouTube page. The live Twitter views are pretty strong right now. People liked it. Matt Corral was awesome. He came in. He got us all hot and bothered. He was talking about Alabama's defense and what it does. Shows the cover 4. Then you set the man in motion. It rolls into a cover 3. And it was like, we're like, ooh, getting tingly feels listening to Matt Corral break down Nick Saban's Alabama defense. So go and check it out. Again, the full replay is on our Twitter page right now, Cover 3 Podcast. It was about 30 minutes. Matt Corral hung out for about 15, 20 minutes with us. We got a chance to preview the game. It was a lot of fun. He talked about the quarterback room with the Carolina Panthers. He talked about sort of his experience at Ole Miss, why Ole Miss is so attractive in the modern era. It was awesome. So thank you if you watch live as well, but want to make sure we turn your attention to that because it's the one fans deserve. Okay, let's go. Let's stay in the SEC then. Other results in the SEC include one that we mentioned with Barton Simmons earlier, the fact that Auburn did win against Texas A&M. Texas A&M now sitting at 1-6. No, at 3-7, 1-6 in the SEC. Texas A&M is not bowl eligible. You signed the highest rated recruiting class in the history of the recruiting industry, and then you're not bowl eligible the following year.
Shout out to Cadillac Williams for getting a win.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from this game. I'm done talking about A&M. They stink. I mean,
I did promise on Twitter that I would talk for 1 minute per score A&M had. So now I have a couple things to say here. And this was when A&M didn't have any points. So I thought it'd be a pretty safe bet. But luckily they only scored twice. So my first thought here is that A&M needs to change the way it does recruiting. Over the summer, Jimbo said that they don't none of those kids came to A&M for NIL. I think they should start using NIL to induce kids. They need to have better players come to Texas A&M. And they probably need to use NIL to get to induce players to come both in the transfer portal and on the recruiting circuit, right? You clearly got to get better talent. Last year, they should have got this kid named Harold Perkins, by the way, who was really good today. Again, they almost got him. Just gotta open up that wallet a little bit. See if you can spend some money A&M, and you can get a better quality of player in there. I don't know, man. I really wonder about Chip's whole theory here on the flu being the portal flu and how many people from that roster flee. I think quite a few.
Yeah,
if we had too. Yeah, if we hadn't seen it already, now that there's no chance to get into a bowl game, there's going to be a whole lot of nagging injuries the next couple of weeks.
They finish the regular season at home against LSU.
I will say
LSU might be playing with fire because you mentioned Harold Perkins. He was the superstar. Before I get to the ways that we can pick apart this LSU win with some concerns, despite having already locked up the SEC West, Perkins is worth every penny was actually a quote that Bud Elliott said about Perkins on this very podcast, I think a week ago. He put on the hat for Texas A&M. He was committed to Texas A&M. Oh no, now I'm committed to LSU. And when Brian Kelly was asked by ESPN on the field after the game, Harold Perkins, 4 sacks in the game, ties a program record. He comes up with the game-winning stop, 2 forced fumbles. What was going through your mind on the sideline, Coach? He said, "Well, I'm glad he's playing for us," which means, damn, I'm glad we could secure that. So Harold Perkins, when he did commit to LSU, was the highest rated prospect in the 2022 recruiting class. And frankly, at this point late in the season, he is right up there with the best player on the field, either side for LSU.
Yeah. Now, can he play quarterback? Because LSU's offense stunk today. Like, this is a game against Arkansas that was missing KJ Jefferson, and they barely held on to win 13-10, and they needed every single thing that Perkins gave them to have a chance. I mean, Jaden Daniels, a week after playing very well against Alabama, was 8 of 15 for 86 yards with an interception. He only rushed for 10 yards.
And a lost fumble. Don't forget that there's an interception and a lost fumble in the first quarter.
Yeah, like it was I like we talked about how they were totally ripe for an upset in this one because of just the emotion of last week and then getting Arkansas coming off a loss to Liberty. But like once KJ Jefferson was out, this game should not have been close. So like, yes, LSU won the game. They clinched the division today. But if you're an LSU fan, how confident are you about anything at this point?
I mean, I'm confident that I'm going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that I'm really happy about that in year one. And if Georgia beats me by 50, I really don't care. Right. I mean, it'll stink in the moment, but I'll be like, wow, Brian Kelly got out of Notre Dame, got to a place where you can get super elite talent as opposed to just elite talent. And he got us to Atlanta in year one with good coaching because this roster was a good roster and we're happy to see it. And I'm happy we didn't lose a game that was like a clear hangover spot where Arkansas played hard. I thought LSU played with poor focus and still won, which I think speaks to their talent level on the day. Daniels looked confused. I think the receivers were confused as far as working in concert with him. Arkansas clearly was daring LSU to run, and at times they would, and it worked occasionally, and it occasionally did not. But the one constant here was LSU's defense. And yes, like Jefferson being out, I think was probably better for LSU than him playing, probably. But I don't know the drop off between Jefferson and Hornsby/Fortin from what we saw the last 2 weeks out of Jefferson is really that big of a deal. Right. He was terrible last week.
No, because with Hornsby it was because when Hornsby was in there, no joke, in the field position battle, Arkansas got more yards from sacks than it did from passing.
That's fair.
It had 30 yards this way from sacks and the yards lost from them getting after Jane Daniels. They had 15 yards this way from throwing the ball through the air after 30 minutes of the game. So, like, in the land grab that is the game of football, they were doing better on defense than they were on offense if they were in a passing situation with Hornsby in the game. Fortin did come in and cook for a little bit near the very end, but Jefferson at least provides more in terms of activating the passing game than what they got out of Hornsby.
Over under half. How many national titles is Brian Kelly winning at LSU?
Under.
Chip.
Yeah, whatever. Over.
Cool.
you said it at half. Sure.
I'm gonna I'll go under just because I feel like once it expands, it's just gonna become that much more difficult.
Shut up. No, we're not going there. So Brian Kelly,
it will.
Fair, but I'm just got to nip this in the bud. We got to stay focused. We got a lot to get to. We're 48 minutes into the podcast, and we're only one conference into our conference by conference. So Brian Kelly said after the game something that was very interesting along the lines. It harkened back to Scott Frost, like, well, in this really tough league, we got a game plan better. In this tough league, Brian Kelly said, in this league, he said, hats off to Sam Pittman. We need to know how to get to what we got to do in this league. Arkansas played tough. It's difficult to get anything going. Hats off to their coach. Sam had his team ready to play. We found a way to win on the road. Hopefully we learn how to prepare offensively to win in this league. Here's what I took from that, because he's clearly talking about himself, offensive, leaning coach. Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, Jane Daniels, the quarterback, the offense as a whole. He felt like Arkansas had their number. He felt like they did not have a preparation advantage in that game. LSU's offense at the beginning of the season was not LSU's offense during this win streak. Things kind of unlocked with the passing game. Jane Daniels against Florida State's just scrambling for his life. That's the best thing they can do. The run game has gotten better. Josh Williams has emerged a little bit. I think the tape is out on LSU, and now the challenge is on this coaching staff to adjust. If they don't adjust, they're going to get absolutely smoked by Georgia. And they might even be not on upset alert, but it could get hairy again against either UAB or Texas A&M. Does LSU have another wrinkle? Does LSU have a curveball? Can they mix it up just a little bit? I felt like I heard Brian Kelly admit in a way that I respect, that it's like, okay, they got us. Like they figured us out a little bit. Now we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to figure some new things out.
I'm just going to assume LSU wins both of those games. What's the closer deficit, the UAB game or Texas A&M? Who hangs?
UAB.
They're both in Death Valley?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No. A&M's on the road. UAB's closer. Circle the Dragons Saturday was an unbelievable success. Your back is against the wall. You're trying to reach bowl eligibility. You're a good team with close losses. You got one of the best running backs in the entire country. And
got your quarterback back.
Answered. North Texas is going to win one division of Conference USA, and they lost by 20 in Birmingham today to the Blazers. Circle the Dragons Saturday.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's UAB. I think that Texas A&M team LSU faces that last weekend of the season is just a skeleton roster at that point.
A lot of flu.
Elsewhere, so if we opened the show with that, I get to eat my Tennessee under officially now that Tennessee is 9-1 overall. 66-24 winners against Missouri. One leg of the Tom and Chip CBS Sports HQ, never a doubt, 100% always going to win if they agree on all three picks across a segment, parlay them and be a millionaire picks, as we both took the over in the 11 a.m. pregame show. Georgia 45-19 winners against Mississippi State. Also, Florida 38-6 against South Carolina. Didn't watch a second of it. And Auburn 13-10 against Texas A&M. What stands out from the SEC?
Tennessee, I guess, didn't like Eli Drinkwitz's comments about the state too much. According to Jordan, they ran it up on him there.
Oh, I kind of felt like it was a give and go game. Like Tennessee did the same thing. Tennessee treated Missouri the way it treated UT Martin. I'm like, do this. Oh, you want to play? Okay, now I'm gonna do a little bit more. Oh, you're gonna keep coming? Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more. Like it was a give and take relationship.
But Tennessee really should have had this thing done. But before the half, Tennessee had two guys wide open who dropped passes, and they would have been up 21 points at the half. Instead, they screwed around, dropped the ball. Missouri's quarterback, who's not a very good thrower, but he scrambled around a little bit. He got him down in the field goal range, so they're only up 11 at the half. And I think Tennessee was like, look, guys, we're going to score in the 50s or 60s today anyway. So whether we do it now or do it late, like we're still going to get our numbers.
They had 724 yards.
Now points, baby. That's how we make the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In the ACE, you want to go Big Ten or ACC, Tom?
You're the host. You pick.
Well, I mean, you're dealing with one of like the key conversation points. The question is whether you want to delay it or just go ahead and dive in.
Dive right in. I don't care.
All right. So the same officiating crew that hosed Illinois against Indiana was also there to hose Illinois against Purdue, as Purdue wins 31-24 against the Fighting Illini. I have not yet been able to calculate what the Big Ten West scenarios are heading into the final 2 weeks, but this is certainly a result that changes the look for whoever the Ohio State-Michigan winner is going to play. Iowa and Wisconsin played a game where the Hawkeyes were good.
Yeah. I mean, the Hawkeyes are competent right now. They're playing Iowa football.
They're playing competent Iowa football. Minnesota 31-3 against Northwestern. Michigan State 27-21 against Rutgers. Rutgers through the back door. I don't know anybody personally who had that, but I saw somebody mention that on the internet. Penn State 30-0 against Maryland. Another result that I was very happy to put to bed when Penn State had a 27-0 lead at halftime. And but you've mentioned the graduating games up and down, like, oh, this is going to go to the iPad or this is going to go to the main screen. It's like, The 3:30 slate, I had 10 or 11 games I was trying to track all at once. I mean, it was just too much going on. And I was happy to kick that one to the streets. Michigan 34-3 against Nebraska, and Ohio State loses Mayan Williams. Could be significant, as Travion Henderson also did not play in this game, but wins 56-14. What are the big headlines from the Big Ten?
Our lock unity on Michigan's over 1 for the season total. They're over 9.5 at 10-0. It's funny. I think if you look at the conference in the East, we've all, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Ohio State won by like how much? It was Ohio State won by 42.
Yeah.
Ohio State won by 42. Michigan won by 31. Penn State won by 30. So those three teams are clearly the best team in the conference. You talked about the officiating in Champaign. I want to be clear. Purdue was the better team in the game. The officiating did the Illini no favors, but Purdue did something that really nobody else has done against Illinois this year. They took away their run game. They did a terrific job. Their defensive line beat Illinois' offensive line. Chase Brown got 98 yards, but a lot of that came in the fourth quarter when Purdue was just kind of dropping into shell coverage because they were just trying to keep Illinois from being able to throw the ball. And on the other side, Purdue kept Aiden O'Connell clean in the pocket, and the entire key of Illinois' defense is if they can get pressure on your QB, their secondary can play man and take chances, and you can't move the ball on them. If they can't get to the QB, they can't cover him forever. Nobody can. And I think Aiden O'Connell, he made some throws that still kind of concerned me because he was throwing into coverage a little too often, but when he had time, Payne Durham, the tight end, that's the one thing that's been getting Illinois too lately. Tight ends, if you have one, you can find room up the seams with them against this defense. Purdue was the better team. That said, that officiating crew, it's been 2 Illinois games. It hasn't just been Illinois games. They made some freaking horrible calls against Purdue in this game as well. It is a horrible crew. I'm not going to say their names. I will just say that if you ask any fan base in the Big Ten, when they see that crew working their game that weekend, they know they are going to be in for some galaxy brain penalty calls. And I do not know how a billion-dollar operation such as the Big Ten Conference can continue going forward, letting crews like that who are routinely making bad decisions week to week work your games.
Yeah, I agree with Tom on this, on the officiating. And he's right. Purdue was the better team. I didn't have any regular Purdue. I had some Purdue -7.5, Purdue like -3.5, just alternate line stuff. Just on the idea that I think Illinois' defense is really good, but also who was the best quarterback they've played before this game? Like Aiden O'Connell wasn't amazing, and I think he's by far the best QB somehow that Illinois has faced through 10 games. Like maybe there's a chance like that Jeff Brom can exploit how much man Illinois wants to play, but Tom is right. Like some of these PI calls were pretty sketchy, and it was not a smoothly officiated game, right? Yeah. And I agree with him on that for sure.
The one call to me that was just, it's funny because it was inconsequential. It had no impact on the outcome of the game. But like there was a Purdue player that was tackled in the backfield for like a loss of 3 yards. He got tackled at the 12. The line of scrimmage was the 15. They spotted the ball at the 14. You see the replay. The kid never got past the 12. There was no forward progress. They missed the spot by 2 yards. And that to me sums up that crew. And again, not just today, every single week that crew works a game. That sums them up because that's what they do routinely. They are not good.
Michigan kind of played with its food and still covered because Nebraska was just so bad on offense that Purdy, Thompson didn't play, right? And then Purdy gets hurt, and Nebraska just couldn't do anything. But it's kind of another game where it's like, McCarthy, is this passing game going to click? I don't know. It's okay. Michigan State giving up a 4th and 30 something to backdoor was kind of nuts, but I don't know. Like they also allowed some Rutgers drives early in the game, so I don't feel like it was a bad backdoor on an individual play, as Chip referenced, but at the same time, I mean, it wasn't like Michigan State dominated the game.
I will say another game too. Ohio State playing in some crappy weather played well. The weather has been their kryptonite. We saw against Michigan last year. We saw it last week against Northwestern. Today, in like some rainy, windy, sleet, and snow, 662 yards. CJ Stroud, 297 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. Mayan Williams ran for 147. The freshman Dallin Hayden ran for 102. Marvin Harrison Jr., 7 catches, 135 yards. I think that was a very cathartic performance for the Buckeyes and their fans. I mean, again, I know it was Indiana, but I just felt like they really needed to see something like that.
Could you say it was Heisman worthy?
I think it could be.
Mm-hmm.
All you need, there's another quarterback in the Heisman Trophy conversation that did lead a game-winning drive in Winston-Salem with the game on the line. Still in the mix. So on Michigan, to your point, Bud, my thought on JJ McCarthy is that 2 things happen that can be very, very frustrating, which for a Michigan fan, which is number one, it seems like his freestyling rarely ends up as awesome as like the one highlight that they play all the time. It's a lot of throwing the ball out or a lot of getting dragged down. And number 2, it seems like there were a couple of Michigan defensive linemen who left that game a little bit hobbled that we should track moving forward. And that would be particularly significant as we continue to look ahead to the end of the regular season. I don't know that would be the difference maker against Illinois, but not having key defensive linemen against Chase Brown sounds bad.
Well, Chase Brown got hurt at the end of the game today too. Illinois might not have Chase Brown anymore.
Yeah. I guess we can, that's probably more of a UFR thing, unless you already know.
Mm-hmm.
I do have, this is from a buddy I do have a DM chat with. I don't know if he wants his name out there. Odds for the Big Ten West, but according to his updated simulation. So Purdue, 44%, Iowa, 30%, Illinois, 16%, Minnesota, 10%, Wisconsin, 0.21%. So I don't really know how that works.
Still alive.
Yeah.
That legitimately sounds like it might be down to the 6th tiebreaker, which happens to be an eating contest.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that when you get down to the 6th tiebreaker in the Big Ten bylaws, you have to sit all of your offensive linemen down, and you have to do the same contest that you do at the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl when your offensive linemen sit across from each other and see who can eat the most wings.
Yeah.
You don't think Bert's winning that in a tiebreaker contest?
I don't see. That's the thing. Illinois got to beat Michigan to get to the contest, and I don't think that's going to happen.
So you're saying there's a chance. All right. In the ACC, Clemson had a little bit of a get-right spot, 31-16 against Louisville, but it was also thanks to Malik Cunningham getting roughed up right at the end of the first half. No bueno for the Cards, who are 6-4, yes, but if you lose your star quarterback, never really great. Duke had a rocky and sloppy start against Virginia Tech, but ends up winning 24-7. Virginia's quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, averaged 400 yards per game and was one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the country in 2021. And on November 12th, 2022, he opened the game with 2 pick sixes. Pitt led 14-0 with 0 offensive plays. Miami won 35-14. Boston College. Oh, Booty Cheeks beat NC State. That was awful. There are so many sad Wolves around Raleigh right now. I cannot believe that game played out the way it did. I didn't get a chance to see much of Florida State, Syracuse, much like the Penn State Maryland game. I saw the way it was going. I was happy to relegate it to another spot. I need to catch up with it on Sunday or Monday. And then, as I mentioned earlier, North Carolina 36, Wake Forest 34. The Tar Heels clinched the ACC Coastal Division with a victory against the Demon Deacons. What stands out from the ACC?
The quality defensive performance in the second half, North Carolina. I mean, we rip them all the time. I'm not really sure they're a good defense still. There may be something wrong with Wake's offense right now with Sam Hartman. Like, I kind of wonder if he's there next year, right? Or if he's going to transfer somewhere. But, man, Carolina defensively in the second half. Did Wake score in the fourth quarter?
No.
I mean,
nope. Nobody scored in the fourth quarter. It was only 3, or there was a field goal. That was it.
That was pretty impressive. Drake May is that dude, as Chip said. Like, I think he's the best player in the country. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman, but I do think he's the best player in the country right now. I mean, He ran for 60 something. He threw for 400 something. He had a rushing touchdown. I know he had four passing touchdowns.
Yeah, he had a rushing touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 passing, 1 rushing.
That was nuts. And he's just really, really, really special. So congrats North Carolina, man. They got it done.
Red zone conversions weren't great for the Tar Heels here.
No.
North Carolina outplayed Wake Forest. Should have won this game by more.
Agreed. Totally.
And your point about North Carolina's second half defense, that's become a trend. I actually circled this game and I said, yeah, we'll see. Congrats that your second half defense numbers are looking really good when you've been going up against Virginia, when you've been going up against Pitt, when you've been going up against like Miami, Duke. I mean, again, like you did good after halftime. That's fine. What are you going to do against Sam Hartman? I think that this is at least somewhat of validation that this group, despite losing multiple key contributors, starters, and rotation players, whether it's coaching, whether it's the players themselves, they do seem to settle in after rocky starts and do a much better job after halftime, at least have so far in ACC play. Anything else from the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Florida State's an absolute wagon right now. They've been just killing people the last couple of weeks. And the biggest takeaway I have from the ACC this weekend, I don't like when Clemson wears purple. It just doesn't look right.
That's fine. They love it.
I know they love it, but I don't like it.
Is Zay Flowers the second best receiver in the country?
No.
First.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is like, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the country, regardless of position.
Could be. I mean, I think he's in the conversation.
I mean, 7 for $130, 2 touchdowns, even though everybody knows the ball is going to him. Again, I mean, BC's receivers are balling out right now. Like that, I know they got bailed out a couple of times against Duke, but they still made some really nice catches in that game as well. Boston College had negative rushing yards tonight and won the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
well, the problem is you gave Dave Doran and Tim Beck a double-digit lead, and they were like, cool. We'll sim to end.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't sim to end when Zay Flowers is on the other side.
Producer Jordan points out that I literally just said 2 minutes ago that Drake May is the best player in the country. I really meant like Drake May is the best player in the country who could win the Heisman, like in that conversation, because you're not going to give it to Marvin Harrison.
I want to keep a running list of how many players Bud Elliott has as the best player in the country.
Bud's top 10 best players in the country.
I mean, the good news is by the end of it, I'll have my All-America ballot. I'm sorry, FWAA. I'll get it in. I promise.
I got mine in. Get on it, Chip.
I know. I need to. NC State fans are in a really bad place right now. No need to dwell on it. That was a horrendous loss. The defense should not have been put in those positions, and slightly more aggressive approach on offense in the second half might have changed that.
Guys who were 3-score home favorites today, who may be looking to either move up a job or get a raise off a job in the Eastern time zone.
Jim Moore Jr.,
Mark Stoops, and Dave Doran.
Oh,
not good days for those dudes.
No, not good days at all. All right. So what about the rest of the Pac-12? Washington State got it done on family weekend. We already talked about Washington, Oregon. Right now, Utah still in action against Stanford. I've got it at 28-7 right now. Oregon State 38-10 winners against Cal. UCLA trailing 21-14 against Arizona early in the third quarter.
And Arizona just blocked a field goal.
Who did?
Arizona blocked a field goal.
And USC had some good news, bad news. Good news, you put 50 on the board. You won big against Colorado. Bad news, you lose star running back Travis Dye to a season-ending injury in the win on Friday night. What stands out from the Pac-12? Again, a league that is very much still in action right now.
It did seem like USC was in a bit of a look-ahead spot, and we're not taking Colorado very seriously to start. the ball game. But Colorado's terrible, so eventually they kind of got right. And USC pushing in that late score with like no time left with the backups to make sure they got the cover was that's how you keep the boosters donating, man. Got to have the NIL collective. I don't know if UCLA is in a look ahead spot here, but I'm pretty sure UCLA can lose this game and still win the Pac-12 as long as they beat USC next week, right?
Yeah, but
because the loser of Oregon-Cal or Oregon-Utah next week is out.
Yeah, but as far as like playoff hopes are concerned, they cannot afford to lose this game.
No, correct. Yeah, that's.
But the playoff committee already,
hates them. Yeah,
hates them.
But hey, I mean, I brought it up, so of course UCLA is going to lose a game it shouldn't, just to make me look like an idiot in the process. I think I'm trying to figure out what to make of Washington. Obviously, this is a huge win, and I'm trying to figure out if suddenly this is a team now that can legitimately win this conference.
No.
You don't think so?
No. I think that in a Pac-12 championship game scenario against the other teams that we have deemed as championship contenders, I would pick the other team besides Washington.
But I thought Oregon was the best team in the Pac-12 coming into this weekend, and they just beat it at its place.
Yeah, I'm going to go more spot and game rather than and favor the body of work. I would favor the body of work of Utah. I would favor the body of work of UCLA. I would favor the body of work against Oregon in a rematch, and I would favor the body of work against USC compared to what Washington has done.
Oregon does have the worst pass defense out of USC, UCLA, Utah.
Yep.
And Oregon. Like, I mean, Oregon is entering the day, and I'm guessing these numbers are not going to improve, but entering the day, they were 107th in passing success rate allowed, 112th in passing efficiency allowed, right? So I think part of it is styles make fights. And if Washington's defense could get a stop or two, there was this potential outcome, which I didn't think was going to happen, but like certainly we discussed it could happen if things broke right for them, that Oregon secondary is that bad. And even Oregon people thought their own secondary was pretty poor. So I don't know, like, would they do this to Utah? Would they do this? We already saw them play UCLA, and UCLA just manhandled them. I don't know. But Chip, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think anybody is that much better than any other team among those 4 or 5.
Still trying to figure it out, Tom?
No, I think they're legit. I think they have a shot. I don't think that's the fun thing of the Pac-12. I don't think anybody is really that much better than anybody else. Like, there's like a clear divide in that conference of like the top 4 or 5 teams, and then everybody else is kind of really bad.
Yeah, and Oregon State's at the top of the bottom tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're tier 2.
Yeah,
so there's 3 tiers. Oregon State's a tier all to itself. Maybe Washington State's in there with them.
Oregon State's like, I am Brentford. Then you head up a little bit, find out bees don't sting quite the same. All right. Big 12. We're running shocker. We're running long again on an instant reaction show.
Oklahoma losing to West Virginia. Coca getting the biggest win of his life with the ears.
Extend Neil Brown.
Yes, that's what West Virginia fans definitely want out of today's result.
Because now that you're 4-6, you still have hope.
Can we just go over the teams that Oklahoma has lost to this year real quick?
All right. Go ahead.
Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Baylor, and West Virginia. Like, not any terrible losses per se, but you lost by 31 to TCU. You lost by 49 to Texas. West Virginia, I thought, was like the worst team in the league this weekend. Then they go and beat you. It's been a rough year for that team.
It doesn't seem so they've got a messaging issue in a way that's probably positive, right? Because there's people that are drinking the Brent Venables Kool-Aid, and heading into the Baylor game when you've got a couple wins in a row, the messaging is, he wanted to lean in on the guys that are here and help coach them up and help get them to reinstill what Oklahoma is going to be. We're not competing for championships yet, but we're building culture. And when you're like in that Baylor game, they win, then all those articles pay off. But you lose it, and then you go to West Virginia and you lose. Now all of a sudden you're 5-5 with Bedlam and Texas Tech left. 6-6, 7-5. What is Oklahoma's final record?
6-6.
Yeah, I think they'll make a bowl.
Oklahoma State 20-14. I think that's a good win for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have
Hell
Spencer
yeah.
Sanders to start, and then Spencer Sanders just like comes in like, you know, out of nowhere. You just hear like the Steve Stone Cold Austin glass break. Spencer Sanders is suddenly in the game, and he's leading you on a touchdown drive that ends up being the winning drive.
I mean, for him, if it's just a pain tolerance thing, it's not like he's going to play pro football, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't think just watching him play college football. If he wants to go out there and play, and he's not going to just do like long-term damage to his body, awesome, man. Like go jump in there, and if you can tolerate the pain, do it. Cool. Like that. They had so many other guys out too. Like that was I bet you in that locker room, they're extremely happy today. Everybody's happy after a win, but they just look who actually got snaps for Oklahoma State today. These are not their normal players. Like they got a lot of dudes out. That's kind of a dead team walking, I thought, and I was wrong about that.
Okay, so we know TCU's in the Big 12 championship. You taking Kansas State or the field for who they're facing?
All right, so Kansas State does not have a tiebreaker over Texas. They have one over Baylor. Who else is seriously in this?
Oklahoma State. They have the tiebreaker there, and they've got their 2 games left are at West Virginia and Kansas.
As someone with a TCU ticket, I strongly prefer that they play Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. Like I really, really like that if that's at all possible.
Oh, you mean the team that ranks outside of the top 70 in offense and defense on a yards per play basis?
Correct. I would enjoy playing Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game if possible.
I think it's going to be Kansas State. I just don't see them screwing this up. Not with the tiebreakers that they have.
I think that's right.
UCF picked up a massive
Huge win
at Tulane. Houston should not be doing this. I don't know what our Houston Cougars fan base is on the Cover 3 listenership, but I'm sorry. Like, what do you need us to like send you some Modelo or something? Like we've got some Modelo sponsored watch parties or pregame watch hang-alongs coming up soon. Like maybe we can come up with something just for you, because it should not be this stressful when you're going up as a 20-point favorite against Temple and needing these last-minute heaves to win the game.
The game-winning touchdown they scored was awesome. Like that would have been like just a thriller. But my God, why do you need that against Temple?
So I was going to bring this up in UFR on Monday, and I forgot to do so. And I looked into this like Thursday afternoon. Houston lost like 6 defensive starters against SMU. Like half their defense went out, and they were playing. I mean, literally.
That explains something. Yeah,
I dug into it. It was like, how in okay, like clearly SMU has a good offense, but they don't have a 77-point offense typically. Like, how did this happen? And Temple actually can kind of chuck it around a little bit with Kurt Warner's son, who now I forgot his first name. Is it Cade Warner? EJ Warner. There we go. Yeah. They're not that bad chucking around. They have this receiver named Adonicus Sanders, who's kind of decent. And I was like, I mean, do we really think Houston's going to be motivated after that kind of loss? They're going to come out focused to play Temple and really play good defense with all these new guys because they got a lot of dudes who are hurt.
Not that, coach.
They don't look ready for the Big 12, though.
No.
To me.
I like that.
Do you know who does look ready for the Big 12?
UCF?
Yeah. Jim Mora. Get him a job in the Power 5.
I do think that Plumlee makes a difference for
UCF. Of
UCF.
course.
Oh, for
sure.
147
rushing yards.
Yeah. He's a different level athlete. Like he's one of the best athletes on the field, and he plays quarterback.
Yeah, like I was taking UCF on the money line. There was just a total roll of the dice because it was like, if Plumlee plays, I feel like I've got this thing. There's so much value on it if that happens, and that's exactly what happened.
Still a little bit close down the stretch, but UCF was in control basically the entire game. Awesome win for Gus Malzahn and that program and that team as they try to secure have they clinched? They haven't clinched a spot yet because we still have Tulane still in the mix, SMU still in the mix. Obviously, Tulane still has to play Cincinnati. Cincinnati's still in the mix.
No, Chip, I think they have because they have tiebreakers over Memphis, Cincinnati, and over Tulane now.
Yeah, I think technically they have clinched.
Well, they're going to be heavy favorites in both of their remaining games. They have USF and Temple, I think, are their final 2 games.
Does ECU have 2 losses in conference or 3? I'm trying to figure out what the situation
They've
here.
got 3.
Losing to Cincinnati was ECU's 3rd loss. They're done.
Yeah.
Okay. So ECU definitely cannot get in.
Correct.
Houston somehow sitting there 4-2.
I thought they would have clinched. They have to be very high though. You know.
Mm-hmm. Notre Dame kept it going today.
What?
Close win against Navy, but I don't care. Like same thing with like Troy against Army. Just beat the Service Academy. I don't care if you blow them out. Just winning is the important part.
They were up 35-13, and they took their foot off the gas, and Navy started trying hard.
I mean, it is Veterans Day weekend. They just wanted to do the classy thing.
Yeah. Speaking of taking your foot off the gas, I remember like I shot that video saying that Shane Beamer was correct to say that we should celebrate the like the small wins or just celebrate wins and period about making a bowl game. Did South Carolina just watch what he said and just take the rest of the season off? I mean, they have 230 yards. It's inexcusable to have 230 yards against that Florida defense. Like A&M did that in the first half last week against those guys. Is Rattler going to transfer again?
I don't know, man, but South Carolina just has that in them. Like, that's really who they are. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like they could do that trying their damnedest, too. You know what I mean?
They're, like, not competitive. They gave up 400 rushing yards today.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is they exist to crush dreams and to also build up false confidence. And today was one of those build up false confidence days where South Carolina's role was to make Florida feel good about itself.
That's fair.
Because how good does a Florida fan feel right now? You got the Rashada flip and you just like worked South Carolina. Lil Etienne was running, like the ground game in general was just on a roll. You're like, okay, so this year wasn't good, but look what we got.
Speaking of Rashada, shout out to Miami for picking itself off the mat and getting that win against Georgia Tech.
Oh, Pyron got knocked out of the game for Georgia Tech. They had to go back to Gibson, and I was like an immediate live bet. Like Gibson cannot play, and after that it just snowballed totally. I hope the Pyron kid's okay. I have a quick game for you guys. It'll take about 90 seconds. Which first-round quarterback line do you like better here? These are both Mel Kiper top 5 quarterbacks for the upcoming draft. 11 of 23 for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks, or 11 of 23 for 109 yards and 1 pick.
Oh, give me the guy without the picks.
Yeah.
All right. Then you have chosen Anthony Richardson in the first round.
Hey. A lot of
what
tools
he's doing
I can
now
mold them.
Looks kind of like what the Bears are doing with Justin Fields, sort of right now. So,
whoa.
Oh, no, they changed the offense, all right?
Listen,
And
Justin
turned a
Fields
corner.
is like Lamar Jackson if Lamar Jackson was good. Okay, let's be real.
Fair.
The issue with the Bears now is now the defense can't get a stop, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just my life in a nutshell. Franchise quarterback, terrible defense, just every single year of my life.
Anything else from the best of the rest before we get out of here?
Again, shout out to Jim Moore getting UConn Bowl eligible. shout out to Coastal. I mean, you lose Grayson McCall, you come out, you still get a win. You're now 6-1 in the division. You kind of needed the win because James Madison put it on Old Dominion to get to 4-2. So
but they're ineligible for the league.
Yeah, ineligible for the Sun Belt Championship.
But so I'm saying, so now they've clinched the division. They get to play for the conference title, and and
probably
Detroit,
against Troy.
Yeah, because they've got the tiebreaker on South Alabama, right?
Yeah, but they have, I think they're currently in the tiebreaker, right? Like because they lost to App, and that was South Al's only loss.
So shout out to the Ohio Bobcats, by the way. They played during the week, obviously, because it's action time. But that's a team that got absolutely destroyed in non-con by Penn State, and Iowa State lost its first game in the MAC to Kent State. But since then, man, they have now reeled off 5 straight wins. They're looking like a wagon in the MAC. This is a year where there really hasn't been a dominant team in the conference, and there usually isn't. But Ohio's kind of starting to look like that team, and I'm really enjoying betting them because I feel like the market has not caught on.
Yeah, you're. I think you're going to look back at those winning tickets you had on Ohio, Tom, and be like, oh, yeah, I can see why he's the most coveted kid in the transfer portal this offseason. The quarterback, Curtis Rourke.
Yep.
Yeah. Canadian kid, actually.
Does he have another Rourke brother?
Yeah, I think the kid that was their
Nathan?
starting quarterback before was his
Nathan.
older brother.
Yeah.
So you like 25 for 35 for 372 and no turnovers against.
I can dig it. Yeah,
against probably the best defense in the MAC.
I can dig it.
Yeah, it sounds better than 11 for 23.
Yeah, that just caught me. I was like, huh. Will Levis and Richardson 11-23.
We will be back on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time for Upon Further Review. More notes from the games we did not get our eyes on, did not get a chance to dig into deep, plus the late night action. You can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fernelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. And thank you to Barton Simmons, and congratulations to the Vanderbilt Commodores. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Anchor down.